Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily for a beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in the Peg. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. Got a fun show today, lots to get to. We have the Winnipeg Jets alumni roster for the alumni game around the Heritage Classic coming up in October. We'll hit that. The latest on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as they prepare for the Beasts of the East and, frankly, the CFL so far this season. Montreal on Friday. We'll hear from Coach O'Shea and Tommy Condell. Brandon Rewucki's going to jump on the program. We'll hit some of the hockey topics in and around the league as we inch closer to training camp next month. Mike McIntyre is going to jump on the program. We'll certainly get into some more of the top stories on the local scene. Bombers, Jets, Mike's week at the Manitoba Open as well. And then we're going to dive into a little bit of NFL talk. Thomas Tipple. We got the Media Fantasy Football League draft tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about some different formats that you might be playing this year. And this is a Superflex league we're in, which allows you to play two quarterbacks if you like, which really does change a lot of the rankings and where you take quarterbacks. So we're going to dive into that a little bit with Thomas from Fantasy Points. And then Pat Gregoire is going to join us. We'll talk a little bit about the potential end of LIV and look ahead to the Tour Championship. I want to thank all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, Pat coming on from CoolBet. CFL Pick'em is open for Week 13. Make sure to get your picks in. And if you haven't been playing with us, get over to coolbet.com. All you need is an account. It's totally free. Go into either promotions or the CoolBet League. You'll see the WST logo. Click it. $50 on the line each and every week. And we're all chasing, I believe it's skins for that trip to the Grey Cup, courtesy of CoolBet. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating and Electrical, Boston Pizza, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, Travel Manitoba, St. Vital Dental Center, our friends at the newly reopened Santa Lucia on Main Street of 1473, Assiniboia Downs, Roldy's Transfer, and, of course, the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. I was at the ballpark last night. We'll get to that in a minute. And we will get to a Why Not question of the day for Not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Shout out to everybody with us live in chat on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And welcome all you podcast listeners making us a part of your summer routine. Remo, what's cracking, buddy? What's going on?
What's going on? I got to be honest, I'm playing a bit hurt. I was away last week, and I got poison ivy, and it's on my legs, and it's taking every bit of strength to not scratch. I don't know how people do it. It makes it bad. So I'm playing hurt. I'm going to, full disclosure, out there, but I'm doing good. Other than that, I'm pretty good here.
Did you find out? Did you know when you got it,
Yeah.
or all of a sudden?
I know exactly. Yeah, it's the kids
Chasing a child.
The kids were throwing balls over a friend's shed, and I went in, and on the other side of the shed was a bunch of bushes, and I went in those bushes to retrieve the balls. And that's what you get for being a nice guy. You get poison ivy.
Poison ivy.
Yeah, so it's not fun. I have gone to the doctor about it. I might have to make a follow-up, though. It's not great down there.
I mean, don't you just go and get calamine lotion and then put it on and it goes away eventually?
I don't need to go into details, but I need prescription strength medication here. I need prescription strength.
I had a ton of bug bites, too, from the weekend. We were chilling on a deck in the evening, and my lower legs just got ravaged by, I think, like little flies or something like that. But they're not mosquito bites. But yes, there's been some afterbite used over the course of the last couple of days. But anyways, well, hopefully we'll both move on from these unfortunate incidents from last weekend and keep it rolling into the weekend. And of course, Labor Day weekend, the following. Reem, let's get right to it. There's so much excitement about this alumni game that is coming up. And, you know, a very different alumni game this time around for the Bombers' second crack at hosting a Heritage Classic, in that the first time it was it was the stars of the 1.0 era. And obviously you brought back Solani and so many familiar faces that wore Winnipeg Jet jerseys 20 years earlier. It was a really special time. But now as the 2.0 era basically matches the 1.0 era in duration, we're setting up for a game at Canada Life Centre on the Saturday before the Heritage Classic with the stars of the 1.0 era. And it's kind of neat. I mean, it certainly makes you feel old. But there's a whole nother generation of Winnipeg Jet fans that, like, I grew up with the 1.0 era that have grown up with this group. And this is the chance for Jet fans to come and welcome back stars, including the showstopper himself, Dustin Byfuglien, for what should be an amazing weekend. Remembering the start of the 2.0 era and, of course, getting ready for a big game at Princess Auto Stadium between the Jets and the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, a lot of excitement. And the first alumni game, that was about the 1.0 Jets, so we're welcoming them all back. Dale Hawerchuk, Teemu Selanne, getting the big cheers. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was there. I mean, what an incredible lineup of stars there. But this year's, as you said, yeah, they had the 15th anniversary last season. It's been a while, and some of these guys who were fan favorites have now retired, and the fans never really got to say goodbye to a guy like Dustin Byfuglien. So I think that's the headliner for me in the alumni game, but also pretty cool to bring these guys back. And I don't know if you talked about it at all, but they announced last week Fan Fest, which is normally the first weekend of training camp right before the first preseason game. Fan Fest is now the Saturday of Heritage Classic weekend. Yes. So I think that is going to be a very busy one with a lot of events, and maybe they do some player Q&As there with the alumni. Maybe there's some signing opportunities. Yeah, so I think that's very cool.
When I was meeting with the folks over at the Jets, I was just sort of assuming that it would be the same old. We were kind of planning to get down there, start a training camp, likely the 19th of September, and then found out that they're doing it, I believe, at the Convention Center, the weekend of Heritage Classic. And I think, it'll be a great time. There'll be a lot of Jet fans that are coming in for the game that might not normally be in the city on a Saturday, coming there for it. And obviously, the ability to include the Winnipeg Jet alumni in the Fan Fest festivities is a big, big part of doing it on that date. So, I think that there'll be windows. Now, I'm not sure exactly how it'll work, but I think there will be windows where the alumni players will be popping by and obviously doing whatever it is, autographs, pictures, that sort of thing. And they've announced this today as, the on sale for the general public goes tomorrow. What will be interesting is to see how many tickets are remaining, because obviously this was a big carrot for package holders. And I know there was a pre-sale if season ticket holders wanted to get additional tickets. So we'll see how much is actually going on sale tomorrow. One thing I can absolutely guarantee, Raymond, was that barn is going to be packed, sold out, and a heck of a lot of fun the night before the Jets play the Habs outdoors.
Yeah, and we hadn't seen much of the Habs roster, and they have so many players to pull from. We had seen some names for the Jets alumni roster. I think it was around the draft they announced the full list. There have been, it's been subject to change. They have that, but so there have been some changes. So I'm going to pull up the roster right now, and no huge changes. I noted Nick Antropov was on the last roster they released. He is no longer there. Drew Stafford was on. He is no longer on the roster. And Chris Thorburn was one of the first announcements. Didn't make the last roster. I guess he had some commitments and was unsure. But now he's back on. So Thorburn on the roster. It still says subject to change, but this is what we're dealing with now. Cody Eakin, Eric Fair, Sam Gagner, Tanner Glass, Andrew Ladd, Brian Little, Anthony Peluso, Matthew Perreault, Jim Slater, Tim Stapleton, Paul Stastny, Chris Thorburn, Blake Wheeler. And on defense, Dustin Byfuglien, Grant Klitzum, Tobias Enstrom, Ron Hainsey, Derek Meach, Mark Stewart, Michael Hutchinson in net, and Claude Noel in goal.
I'm disappointed that Pav isn't on the roster. I was definitely hoping that but I think he's very busy in the Czech Republic, and it was probably just difficult to get back. Obviously, it's great that the GST line is going to be there. We spent a lot of time talking about Buff. We knew he'd be a centerpiece. The inclusion of Toby Enstrom, Rumo, I think is just fantastic. If we recall, Toby's end here with the Winnipeg Jets was quick, it was quiet, and there's never really been any closure, I think, with Toby Enstrom. The amount of time he patrolled the ice with that 8-foot stick of his, the pool cleaner, if you will, and Dustin Byfuglien, was a huge part of Winnipeg Jet history. And as the team struggled against the Golden Knights in the conference final in 2018, Paul Maurice benched Enstrom in that final Game 5. The team lost, he left, and he never came back. And I did really wonder whether there was, if the bridge got blown up, if you will, and that would be it. Obviously, we haven't seen Toby, as far as I know, back in Winnipeg at any point. I haven't seen him do anything with the organization since then. So for a guy that was a very popular player, a great player for the Winnipeg Jets for many number of years, I was really happy. Of everyone that was added or sort of made official for this event, to me, to see old 39 out there, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of him with Big Buff in the alumni game, was a great add.
For sure, and that's another player. Yeah, you haven't really had that closure. He did, it was the only franchise he ever played for, the Jets Thrashers, 4 seasons in Atlanta. I played from 2011, the inaugural Jets season, until the end of 2018, and it was certainly a tough exit for him, being sad in that series, which started off great for the Winnipeg Jets, but ended up losing 4 straight to Vegas. So a lot of excitement, for the upcoming season. Vigo Bjork, these Connor Hellebuck conversations we had yesterday. You and Murat talking about Adam Lowry. Is he ready for a bounce back season? But in October, late October, we're going to have a great weekend of celebration, Heritage Classic, but also the alumni game, which I think is drawing a lot of interest. As anything Dustin Byfuglien does ever gets a lot of interaction in social media, and I owe any followers I have on X, formerly known as Twitter, are from tweeting out Dustin Byfuglien gifs of him just smoking basically everyone. I might have to come up with my top 5 here, because there's
great for
too many.
engagement. You know what?
The
In
best.
and around it, I think, a few top 5s would be a great thing to do for our accounts. We could probably get a few more folks following WST. By the way, if you haven't already, give us a follow on all your social channels at Sports Talk WPG. Speaking of that, just very quickly, I noticed this just before coming on. We have dropped, the first of some of the fun content we did on that shoot day with Connor and Liz of all of the WST team going head-to-head in a bunch of fun trivia contests and games that are going to be out on Instagram and the other one. And the first one was a little bit of Jets trivia with the youngsters going head-to-head, Connor versus Liz.
Yeah, Connor and Liz facing off, Jets 2.0 trivia. Check it out, Sports Talk WPG on Instagram and TikTok. Getting some fun engagement. And I'll say, when you're under the gun and you feel like you've got a time limit, your brain might not be working, as smoothly as it should. So it's a lot tougher, answering those when the camera's on you, when the mics are on, then, sitting at home, on the toilet scrolling Instagram and be like, oh, these guys, how could they not get that? So I'm looking forward. Because the next one I'm going to post later on. I think I looked pretty, you got me good on one of them, but I'm looking forward to putting these out there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of fun and lots of great content coming up. And speaking of content and our social channels, while you pull up, Remo, the roster for the alumni game, this is our first opportunity of the year, because training camp hasn't started yet, to do the clean lines. Let's project the lines for the alumni game. I think it's pretty easy. GST will be back. Tanner Glass, Jim Slater, Chris Thorburn. That's a line. I don't think there's any doubt that we're going to start off the game with Andrew Ladd, Brian Little, and Blake Wheeler playing together. Be interesting to see. I would imagine Stastny probably will play with Matthew Perreault. And then who's with them? Is it Tim Stapleton? Maybe it's Sam Gagner. And then Fair, Eakin, Slater, and the nuclear option, Anthony Peluso, rounding out the forward group. And you got to think we're going to get a lot of Buff and Toby playing together like the good old days.
Yeah, Ladd, Little, Wheeler, line for me, Slater with Glass and Thorburn. You know, you have Stastny, Perreault, Gagner. I kind of like that one. And then maybe Stapleton, Peluso, Fair, Cody Eakin. Is he rotating through? Here we are coming up with lines. And yeah, D pairs, Bufflin, Enstrom. You know, you got, Klitzem, Hainsey, Meach, Stewart, I think. Or is Klitzem left and Hainsey's also left? Maybe some guys are going to have to go on their off wing
I'm actually pumped that our HRR is back. Hockey-related Ron, Mr. Hainsey.
Yes.
Still one of the great nicknames of the 2.0 era. And then, of course, having Claude Noel being the coach. Like, I know there'll be a big crowd. We'll see what we get out of Buff when he's speaking with the media. I think we should book off about an hour for the Claude Noel press conference. And to be honest, I'd like to play the entire thing because there's no one as entertaining. If you really think about the great orators, I mean, Maurice, you know, Maurice was certainly no stranger to good quotes at the microphone. But there was something about Claude Noel and the way he described both the good times and the bad times that made him such a favorite. So I cannot wait to have a little bit of a Claude back in our lives that week. It's going to be a heck of a way to start off the season. Of course, I guess that's about 3 weeks into the campaign. You know, the Jets dropped the puck on the 2nd of October against the Boston Bruins at home in the home opener. And then 3 weeks later, it'll be go time outdoors. Jets and the Montreal Canadiens at Princess Auto Stadium. Well, why not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray. Who were you most excited to see back in the alumni game? I know there'll be a lot of Dustin Bufflins, but there's a lot of other great guys. I'm pumped about Matthew Perreault in particular too. He was a big favorite of ours here on WST. So we'll talk about it a little bit more with Brandon and Mike when they jump on and join us, and obviously some of the other off-season topics as we get closer to training camp. Meanwhile, down on the south side of the city, Remo, the Bombers are getting ready for the Montreal Alouettes. Closed practice, but a lot of preparation going on. But to be honest, most of the conversation around the coaching staffs, at least over the last couple of days, I'm not sure the media or they've really been able to move past what happened in the second half on Friday night in Edmonton. Yeah,
that's... You know, they were in Edmonton and not a lot of media there, so you don't really get to ask a ton of questions. And Sunday they came out and, you know, asking, and even they brought out the coordinator. You know, that was the players, Collaros and Dembski and O'Shea, and even yesterday, Tommy Condell being asked all the questions. I mean, what was it like getting only 4 offensive plays in the third quarter? That must have really sucked, huh? How about only having 19 yards? Have you ever had that poor of an offense in a half before? So Tommy Condell stepped to the microphone and answered those. And, you know, it was a bit surprising, you know, how good that they looked. You're like, yeah, this is how they should be. And then to take such a step back in that second half and eventually lose, like not being able to get first downs, you know, it's just such a, you know, that's a tough one when this team has got a bad schedule coming up. You're playing Saskatchewan twice, you're playing Edmonton again, you know, Montreal, you're 7-point underdog now with 6.5 yesterday. So they're really behind it here in a West Division that, well, BC, they're past you. They're 5-5, and the Bombers are also 5-5. So they're going to need to keep pace with them, who's looking pretty good. I saw Nathan Rourke was just named one of the players of the week for last week.
Well, Rourke's cooking right now. BC's defense, to me, that was the story. I mean, holding Saskatchewan just to 16 points, with the Emilus back. And, Sask actually, now it sounds like Emilus back on the 6th game. So they're kind of in a tough spot right now. Hopefully the Bombers can, the Bombers will worry about Saskatchewan next week because they've got their hands full with Montreal. But as Remis just mentioned, we do have some with Tommy Condell from yesterday. And, when you get the OC, to the podium after a brilliant first half where the team has looked as good as it has offensively at any point this season, and then literally do a 180 at halftime, there's a lot of questions. Here's what Tommy Condell had to say on the offensive outage in the third quarter and only having 4 offensive plays in 3Q.
Yeah, I think we need to be able to stay on the field when we get a chance and opportunity. I told him it's like a basketball game going to a basketball, when you go in a pickup basketball game, I don't know if you guys have ever played that, and you go in there and winners stay on. And you've got to be able to, we had 2 second downs during that time, and we didn't convert them, right? We've got to be able to stay on the court right, off of there. And that's our job.
Are there challenges in keeping players sharp and keeping yourself sharp when there's so little action over such an extended time?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I think they're pros and everything else. We got to maintain our focus on that kind of thing. So, to me, it's always you want to be out there, but that's that's our action to be able to be out there. We got to put it in our control. So they need to stay mentally sharp, and that's part of the game. There's going to be always ebbs and flows in the game. It's like a run here, a run there, and that's just what it is. And you have to overcome it. That was a little mental adversity, so to speak. You got to expect it. It's always going to be. I tell them it's either like life. It's like you're going into adversity, you're in it, right? Or you're coming out of it, and then you're going to circle right back. That's just the way it is. It's one play at a time, one day at a time.
With his injury, how surprised, how impressed, whatever the word is, are you with Brady Oliveira, how he's been able to play the last couple weeks?
Yeah, I don't know about his injury. I don't know exactly any of that. So I just expect him to go play. When he's ready to go play, I expect him to play. So anybody that goes out there, he's not probably the only one that's, has some things going on, and we expect them to go out there to produce no matter what.
All right, so there's Tommy Condell on, the third quarter and then a couple of the other topics. Obviously, there was a lot of film review, probably pretty frustrating when you got into the second half of the game. Here's what Condell said he saw after reviewing the film.
I think some of the things was just honestly we didn't, all of a sudden possibly, from a communication standpoint, we've got to make sure that we all hear the call and make sure the call is correct and all that kind of stuff. I think just execution from throw to catch, and let it be that. I mean, those are the little things. It's always going to be different. It's not going to be something. The game structure of it and the way the defensive plays, it's not like the same defense every week, right? So when we go against that in that opportunity in those game-defining moments, we got to come up and rise to that competitive greatness that we all talk about and be able to do that. But, a lot of times you don't rise up to it. You go to your least amount of preparation. So can we prepare in that facet so when that moment does hit, can we just go and execute in it? And that's all of us, not just the players, coaches included.
All right, and if you joined us for CFL 110 yesterday morning or have checked out the show, as well as WST, I expressed concern that the Bombers don't now really have that threat of the deep ball and the deep passing game. It's sort of missing from this Bomber offense, and that isn't the case for most of the teams that they're going to be going up against. Certainly the team that's coming up on Friday night. Hammer, after doing CFL 110, was down at practice and asked Tommy Condell about the lack of a consistent deep passing game right now with the Bomber offense.
There has been no real deep down attack. Do you not have the quarterback? Do you not have the O-line? Do you not have the receivers for it? Like, what is the problem with attacking downfield for this team? Because it seems like you're just not even trying to do that anymore.
Yeah, now first I have to ask you a question in regards to what do you consider a deep attack?
I see I guess they can be anything from plays that result in deep or literally throwing the ball deep. Like
Yeah, just like bombing away. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, to a certain
because
degree,
I think that to a certain
pushing the
degree.
ball downfield.
Yeah, well, I think, make sure as we go through this and look at it, from the 15 yards plays or more from a PFF standpoint, look into that, see where we're at. I think in the first couple of weeks we're in the top of the league in that regard, in the top third of the league. Now if you're just talking about bombs and shots all the way, that's why you have to define it. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. If you're talking about 15 yards or more, let's look at that, and let's see where we lie on that. But if you're talking about
shots, like it doesn't need to be 60 yarders, and whatever, like taking shots down because rely on a couple things. I bring up those things because the O-line needs to give you time to do it.
Yeah.
You need to have the quarterback who can throw the ball that deep and accurately, and you need the receivers who can, in most situations for the risk profile, to go up and actually get it. So I'm wondering, since you don't do that often, if one of those three things or a mixture of those three things are the issue of why you're not attacking the field.
Yeah. I think at times, too, it's going to be also, and you can add not only that, but from a defensive structure-wise, how our team's playing us, so that's a whole other phase of it. And if you want to add progressions to another phase of it, that's a whole other phase of it. Now, if you're just asking about, chucking it deep and closing my eyes and throwing it 50 yards, do we have some of those? Yes. But, I'm more along the lines, let's play progression football. Let's let the, Zach Collaros and everyone else be able to work through their progressions and that kind of thing. So those are the things that I think are important, right? So, but to me, being able to have more deep shots, as you say, and attack the defense is very important, because the other thing that lies into it is you get an opportunity, hopefully, to get a pass interference call. So there is some positive, off of that kind of stuff, but it's all encompassing on that. I just can't sit there and say, hey, we're going to throw it up there. That from a coaching standpoint, I've got to make sure that I give them an opportunity to know what the look is. But if they're playing over the top when it's called, and sometimes they actually are called, right? But you don't see that, right? Because they're reading it through, and there might be a halfback over the top. I don't coach just throwing it into basically a defensive team meeting.
All right, there is Tommy Condell. We were just having a little bit of fun with the alumni game rosters and suggesting who might be playing with who. It won't be too long for that first training camp practice where Connor and Remo fire out the clean lines, and we can start obsessing over the way this team's going to look once we drop the puck on the 2nd of October. Of course, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical is a proud sponsor of the Winnipeg Jets, the Bombers, and, of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk. And they are Winnipeg's residential and commercial plumbing experts, along with heating and electrical services. They've been Winnipeg's most trusted plumbers with over 40 years of fast responses, lasting results, and 24/7 emergency services across all of Winnipeg. You can schedule an appointment at cleanline.ca. And don't forget the number, 204-500-2001. When you're in a jam, Clean Line's got your back 24/7, 365. Our friends at Manitoba Battery are a great supporter of ours and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And let's hope after that conversation of Tommy Condell and Jeff Hamilton a second ago, we might be able to get a super boosted battery for that Bomber offense this week, because they're going to need it against the Montreal Alouettes. Of course, Manitoba Battery is the spot to go to for batteries for literally everything, where you'll shop local, you'll get the best prices in town, period, beating the pants off the big box stores with the best in customer service as well. Pop by and see Manitoba Battery at one of their 2 Winnipeg locations, the original on Logan Avenue, the new location on Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city. And you'll be able to get your batteries for everything you're doing this summer and fall, ATVs, dirt bikes, boats, and more. And with winter, we won't call it right around the corner, but winter is inevitable. The best deals on the batteries that'll get you through the Winnipeg winter for your car or truck. Manitoba Battery also delivers. You can order online at manitobabattery.com. Great to hear from our friends Roberto and the gang at Santa Lucia Main Street. It was about 2 years ago. They had a devastating fire. Many thought that the restaurant wouldn't return. Through a lot of hard work and a lot of time, Santa Lucia on Main Street is back, serving the people of West Kildonan. Pop down and see him right now at 1473. The lounge is beautiful. They did an unbelievable job of the restaurant. And, of course, all the great delicacies you've come to know from Santa Lucia. 1473 Main is back. Pop by and see him today at Santa Lucia at 1473 Main Street. And just before we bring in Brandon Rewucki, folks, if you are on the move coming up in the fall or winter, it's time for a call to our friends at Rolly's Transfer to get as much of the stress taken out of the moving game as possible with the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Rolly's, family-owned and operated for over 60 years, are the go-to people for the best in moving services. And you can check them out on their website at rollys.com. But if you are moving, click on that request an estimate button. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then simply let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that they've been famous for now into their 7th decades. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more today and request an estimate online at rollys.com. All right, let's bring in Brandon Rewucki, host of Skates and Plates and a great friend of the program. Rew, what's up, pal? How are you?
Suffered a catastrophic injury in 6 days, so
nice.
We'll take it.
Remis is dealing with poison ivy. I have a number of bug bites that have been somewhat problematic from the weekend, but that's good. I mean, our weekly health update on you, considering that you have a lot on your plate right now, a lot of chasing, and seem to be somewhat accident prone. I'm glad that your health seems to be at least not worse than it was last week.
Yeah. Knock on wood. We're holding up okay, but as you know, in sports as well, things can change on a moment's notice. But my main goal now, especially like from a health perspective, is to try to keep it under 100 steps a day. And you know what? So the clothes for some reason are fitting tighter, but so far so good.
Hey, just first off, we just we're having some fun going through that lineup of the alumni game. GST is back. We'll have little lad Wheeler back. Interesting that Toby Enstrom's on that list. That was a guy, we were just talking about how the end was so quick. And basically, he got benched from that game, didn't speak, went off to Europe, and we never saw him again. I know there's a lot of excitement about Big Buff, but seeing Toby out there with the pool cleaner beside Buff on the blue line is going to actually be a real nice addition to the event.
I mean, that he was like it did kind of. You're right. It went downhill fast, which it happens for a lot of athletes, but especially for I think anybody of smaller stature in a physical sport. But I don't know if we're going to have a more unheralded, underrated Jet player than Toby was. I mean, the dude was a warrior. He battled through so much, and he really Buff played with Morrissey for a while. He had a stable of partners, but he truly wasn't ever at his best unless it was Toby Enstrom by his side. Like they fit so well together. So that's great. I was a little worried it might have been too unceremonious in terms of parting of ways several years back, but it's some time has passed since then, and he's more than worthy of being honored, and I imagine he will be, but hopefully he gets an outstanding ovation because he really was one of the best defensemen we've seen since 2.0 came back, right? Like I know Buff and Morrissey are your 1-2, but after that, he was just so good for so long. Like to have a capable partner for a number one defenseman, he wasn't quite up to that level, but he was almost like a dollar store version of Devon Taves in Colorado, where it's like he's the capable sidekick behind the big dog, and so he was great, and that's awesome that he's going to be heading down in a couple of weeks.
It's funny. It's often the it's often the partner of the top defenseman that is under a big time glare. The underlying numbers for Dylan DeMello have been great playing with Josh Morrissey. But yet we always talk about trying to improve that top spot on the right side. And I do think back to, Buff at his best. It always was with Toby, playing alongside him. That pairing dominant for a long time. And, you can sort of make very different players, but similarly unheralded at times, and I don't think anyone ever really, or at least maybe the mainstream Jet fans, had the appreciation for what Toby did and what he allowed Buff to do, which was a lot, because you can imagine playing alongside Bufflin all those years has to be one of the most difficult assignments in the NHL in the last 20.
Well, and let's not forget, like I'm as big of a Buff fan as anybody, but 2011 to, I don't know, 2015, Buff could be an adventure, as a polite way to put it, right? So like you needed to have a little bit of conscience, with the Stallion going wild at times, and he did that. And I wonder too if people maybe underrate him because of what Toby did in his final few years in Atlanta, because I know one of those years he put up over 50. Like he was a big power play guy for a while, and he had, I don't know if it was maybe 60, but he for sure had 50 plus points one year. And I just wonder if people maybe expected something out of him that he wasn't necessarily going to deliver. And that's why his performance never really, grabbed Winnipeggers by storm. But he was just a damn good foil for a long, long time. And, for the best Jets team we've had, like he was still, even with Paul Maurice at times, keeping him in, pulling him out, like he was still a really integral piece for, pretty close to a decade. Like he was a hell of a defenseman.
He actually had back-to-back 50-point seasons with the Thrashers. 09-10, he had 6 goals, 44 assists for 50 points. The next year, in only 72 games, 10 goals, 41 assists for 51 points. First year in Winnipeg, missed 20 games, had 33 points in 62. And then the rest of the way, 15, 30, 23, 16, 14, and 6. And then, of course, 11 playoff games in the 17-18 season, and then was gone. Played in Moto for a couple years, and then hung it up. So, very much looking forward to seeing him, Matthew Perreault. I'm pumped that Tim Stapleton's on just so we can have him on the show again, because he's so bloody hilarious. But it is going to be fun. Listen, we were talking to Murat yesterday. And listen, I know a lot of people are saying, I don't know, I'm sure you heard Elliot Friedman's quote yesterday. It wasn't, to me, it was sort of a nothing burger. It was obvious. It's pretty quiet right now. I guess we'll hear more closer to training camp for sure. But it is interesting. There are a few people throwing out there that maybe we won't see Hellebuyck at training camp. Do you have a feel at all for how things are going to go if nothing gets done in the next 3 weeks, which is still certainly a possibility? Like when we get to that third week in September and everyone's going, do you expect Hellebuyck to be here, or is this going to be much ado about nothing? He'll be here, he'll say all the right things, and just try to wait it out until he gets the call from Cheveldayoff.
You can't discount that it's a possibility, right? Mm-hmm. But you look, there's just been so few guys that have done this, Huss. And, not that if you hold out or, fail to show up, it makes you a toxic teammate or character. But I feel like it just takes a certain kind of personality to do that. And I just don't know if Hellebuyck's that guy. So, if you ask me for a prediction right now, if a trade isn't finalized, I think Hellebuyck's there. And like you said, I think he says the right things to a degree. I think that there's going to be not necessarily fireworks, but I don't think he's going to shy away from what we all know and kind of what he said in his last public comments, which is I want to win. If it's here, great. If it needs to be somewhere else, then it'll be somewhere else, right? I think he's going to be pretty, upfront in terms of just highlighting that it's all about winning for him now. And that means that it might not be in Winnipeg in the near future. But to go to the step of holdout, I have my doubts. But I also can't say that it's not going to happen with certainty, because the NHL it's just not like other sports, right? It happens once every couple of years, where it's a full on holdout. I'm not showing up. I'm not you have to move me. And I just don't think it's that toxic. I don't think it's at that point. And I don't think Connor Hellebuyck is the type of guy to push the envelope to that degree.
I can't even think of the last player with significant term left on his contract that just didn't show up and wouldn't get paid until a deal was done. I mean, it's been a minute. Like, we often see guys not show up in camp because they don't have deals.
Yeah.
Cutter Gauthier, for instance, in Anaheim.
Yeah, Willie Nylander.
I don't expect to see those guys. I mean, you know, it's been happened here before. Josh Morrissey wasn't at camp to begin with. I think on Kyle Connor's previous deal, if I'm not mistaken, he wasn't there. I mean, that happens all the time, and that deadline kind of forces people to come together. This is very different because the contract's already signed, and it is about Kevin Cheveldayoff getting the price for his goaltender, and I'm not sure any of us can predict when that will happen. You know, the Hellebuyck situation isn't the only kind of very interesting one going into the season. What is your read on the Detroit Red Wings at this point? Steve Yzerman is stepping down, but I believe he's still running the show until they hire somebody new. And I haven't heard a lot on Dylan Larkin lately, but I've been circling that first day to camp in Detroit ever since his trade request because it seemed unrealistic, borderline impossible to get done with the 2, then 3 teams he said he'd accept it to. And then you've got all that backlash with the fans of a hometown guy, the captain of the team, seemingly bailing on the club. Like, to me, that might be the messiest spot in the entire National Hockey League once training camp begins.
Yeah, I mean, for me, step one is easy. It's the easiest. It's really the only one you can control is, you know, when you speak with the media, Dylan Larkin is no longer the captain of the team. Like that's step one. And I don't think it's negotiable either. Like, you just can't have the captain publicly requesting a trade, putting the team in a tough spot, and then be like, all right, lead the troops out for day one of the new year, right? Like, I think you can, you know, publicly posture it as, you know, he's going to be here until we find a deal or a decision that's going to help the team. In the meantime, though, we have a different leadership group, and we're turning the page. So, I mean, that's step one there. What they do after that, I don't really know. You know, basically, it feels like their choices right now is essentially, do you like Danila Yurov, Charlie Stramel, and a first-round pick for the hometown hero? And if you're okay with just shipping him out for nothing, then that's your move. If not, you've got to hold firm and just hope another team comes in and they're able to convince Larkin that he wants out, and away you go. But I do ultimately think from Detroit's perspective that I know it's been a long time since they made the playoffs after never missing the playoffs, but does it not feel like the best move for the health of the team is like a mini rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it, or reset around the Raymond, Seider, Edvinsson core? And that kind of makes a little bit more sense in terms of, you know, having a realistic path at being a playoff team year in, year out. I like that, to me, seems like the only real smart path forward. I don't know if they're necessarily going to take that or not, but that's how I would try to play it, is, you know, not allow yourselves to be strong-armed into a trade to one of his preferred teams, because I just don't think they have the assets necessary. And you can't just make a trade for the sake of making a trade. And if it sucks, and if the first half of the year goes bad, like, we have to deal with it, right? You just cannot make a poison pill trade and set your franchise back potentially years in this scenario.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I think that they would benefit from moving on from Larkin, but at the same point, he's far too valuable to trade for pennies on the dollar to one of 3 teams that all would be considered of the best in the league. I mean, the rest of the league would basically have a fit if they went and did that. You mentioned Yurov and that package that was rumored to be from Minnesota. I would suggest that is on the back burner. I would suggest that everything is on the back burner for Bill Guerin right now, because I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there has been, it seems like the nervousness levels in the Twin Cities in the state of hockey continue to get cranked up because they have not been able to get something done with Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, it should be. Like, of course it should be. You mortgage the future to take a run at it, and it's potentially, 8 months out the door. Now, to be fair, I did think it was very unlikely the Wild were going to sign Kirill Kaprizov before they emptied the vault and brought him back in. So, I'm not going to say just yet that, Quinn Hughes is 1.8 feet out the door and ready to go, because Bill Guerin has shown that, and ownership, if it's a money thing, we're not going to be outbid here. Like, we'll find a way to keep the high-end talent in fold, and we'll figure the rest out from there. It's a pretty precarious situation, though, man. Like, the Hughes brothers seem to have their own idea on, each of their futures in the NHL. And that's the tricky part, right? Like, if you're Bill Guerin, all you could do is build the best team possible, right? But if he's like, I want to play with my brothers, there's nothing you could do, right? Like, you can't magically convince Jack and Luke to switch gears and head to Minnesota. Like, all you can do is have the best possible team available. And I that's probably why they're pushing hard on Larkin, which is, if you're Quinn Hughes, it's like, yeah, Colorado and Dallas are wagons, but we've got ourselves a damn good team here too. There's no guarantee whichever way I go. Like, maybe this is a spot that I find myself, enjoying for the next several years. And who knows, maybe a brother or two makes their way up north to Minnesota. So
here's the thing. Like, when you look at Jersey's roster, I mean, Luke signed until 2032. One of the most overpaid players in the league, by the way, $9 million a season. I mean, that was basically like a, hey, Jack, we'll do anything to keep you here. And hey, Quinn, we got the other guy here too. So it was sort of a beacon, if you will. It was a tax to give them a better chance to get them together. And Jack has 4 more seasons on his season. So, I mean, with Quinn needing a new contract at the end of this year, regardless of whether it's in Minnesota or elsewhere, like, if he just said, hey, I'm playing this out, trade me all you want, I will be a free agent on July 1st, which is his right to do, and then he decides he wants to sign in New Jersey, well, next year, they've got Dougie Hamilton that's still on the books for $9 million. They've got Luke Hughes, $9 million. Brett Pesce, $5.5 million. He's got 4 years left. Johnny Kovacevic, $4 million a year, 4 years left. And even Siegenthaler at $3.4 million. There is not, I mean, they've already committed $30 million next year to it. And then they'll have a lot of players coming off the books, but their key guys already signed. So, I mean, I guess there is a world where the Devils could pony up $18 million a season, which is sort of what we heard that we were talking about in Minnesota. 3 years at 18. God, these numbers are just mind-boggling. But the potential reunion to me can only happen in Jersey. I don't know whether they really have anything that would be attractive enough for the Wild to move off of it. At that point, then you're sitting there playing, okay, we need to have a great season. We need to be so good that Quinn goes, I would be insane to leave this team, even if you're doing a 3-year contract, and then the Hughes brothers can go sign together wherever the hell they want at the end of his deal and Jack's deal in Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm Bill Guerin, and it's like, this is the situation I put myself in, I can move him, right? Like, what does trading Quinn Hughes ultimately do for the Minnesota Wild? Like, you went all in with Kaprizov. You have Boldy correctly signed to an amazing deal. This team, like, their high-end guys are all in their prime. Like, you have to go for it. So that would be the one thing that would shock me in this whole thing, is if the Wild traded Quinn Hughes. I just can't envision a scenario where that happens. So I think Bill Guerin is basically like, how can I empty the chamber and find that guy down the middle? And that, I ask Minnesota, like, that's been the missing piece for their existence, probably. So, like, I think that's the only move they're even considering right now. I cannot imagine Bill Guerin, just kind of doing a complete 180 here, flipping Quinn Hughes for spare parts, and they try to figure it out after that. It's like, we've gone all in. Let's try to find a way to make it work. But I can definitely say I have no true idea of what Quinn Hughes wants to do. So your guess is as good as mine.
T. Will just dropped this one in the chat. Imagine if Minnie can't get a deal done. So Hughes is probably gone at the end of the year, and they're good, and they're in a playoff spot. He goes, what do they do? Pull out a bucket of popcorn to watch that drama. I mean, listen, T. Will does make a great point. I mean, that is... I mean, listen, it's not different than the situation the Jets were in 2 years ago when they were the top team in the league. Feel like they have legitimate cup aspirations with a player as talented as Nikolai Ehlers that would have, certainly you would have been able to got some pretty nice assets coming back, but does that deep six your chance at winning in that season with everything that you built up? So, I mean, I guess I could see if they were just a borderline team in and around a wild card, the 8th spot, maybe you just have to suck it up and see what you can do without him. But, it's interesting. I'll let you hit this because we kind of got into this a little bit with Murat yesterday. When talking about Hellebuck's value, and let's put Quinn Hughes' value in there as well, I will argue that the trade deadline is consistently the spot where the general managers seem to be the most desperate, the overpays are the highest because of where you are in the season, and there are teams that can taste it and see what other teams around the league are doing. You could make an argument that for both Quinn Hughes and Hellebuck, that the deadline would actually get you the biggest return or bang for your buck. I'm just not sure, at least in the Hellebuck case, if he's dead set on getting out of here, he wants to hang around for 5 months and 2/3 or 3/4 of the NHL season before he finds out where he's headed to.
Yeah, it's always trickier with goalies, right? Because as we see right now, when you're dealing with a specific kind of team, right? Playoff, we'll just call it a playoff team just for ease, right? Playoff team without a goalie. That's kind of an oxymoron. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's difficult to find. I mean, coincidentally, maybe New Jersey is one of those. But that's the only tricky part there, is that in terms of a major goaltender trade, now that teams have shuffled the deck, like you're just dealing with a select few options at your disposal. And on top of it, they have to have assets that you're looking for. And they have to be assets that the contending team doesn't want to give up because, in theory, they would help them in the moment, right? So you're like, that's why Buffalo and Winnipeg seem to be perfect trade partners, because they were really one of the only teams that had and checked off all of those boxes. It is a much different scenario when it's a number one defenseman, because there's lots of strong teams that don't have that or don't have somebody near the ability of a Quinn Hughes.
He flips the ice.
Yep. He's. I mean, worst case, he's the third best defenseman in hockey. But realistically, it's what, a 3-way battle between him, Werenski, and Makar, and depending on the day, you can go either way. And I'm not going to argue too much about that, right? Like he's as valuable as any top forward, any, as rare as they are, true workhorse number one goalie. So there are a lot more teams out there that could find themselves in the mix. There's a lot of teams that maybe want to take the leap and feel like he could be the guy that helps them do that. So a lot of it too with Minnesota will depend where they are come, well, let's just say midway through the year, right? Because they took a big step last year. They were a damn good team. They beat a damn good Dallas Stars club. They didn't take down Colorado, obviously, but it wasn't a complete romp and rollover. Like, they pushed them in a number of those games. So is that who they are? Or do they kind of become the Minnesota Wild that we all know over the past 15, 20 years, right? Because it does become a different conversation if they're on the wild card bubble. And then you're like, does it even matter if he's here because we're not good enough? But if you're, comfortably 15 points ahead of the playoff line, kind of like they were this past year, I don't think Billy Guerin's going to wave the white flag. And I think he's a bit of a gambler, and he's okay with, let's roll the dice and let's see if we can pull off a miracle run or pull off a miracle extension.
No doubt. This is kind of funny, back to Hellebuck for a minute, with all the speculation as to, how things are going to play out. The Awesome Miner 99 with the funny one. if Andrea Helly isn't posting first day of school photos from Winnipeg on her Instagram, I will start to worry. And it could be a little bit of IG sleuthing over the course of the next week's on Mrs. Hellebuck's account, because that is a big thing. I mean, when you have a young family, having and kids got to go to school. If you're looking to get out, I mean, you really want to have that set up and be able to do it all summer. That isn't the case right now. They have to be prepared that he might be here right now. So how they handle all of that is interesting. One other NHL spot, I'll just throw this to you, that is a mess right now, is Anaheim. How, Cutter Gauthier is going to sign a deal at some point. It's been reported that he's turned down $14 million a year.
Oh, really? Cutter Gauthier would do something like that?
Yeah, go
Weird.
figure.
Yeah.
Cutter Gauthier, of all people. They only have $9 million in cap space. We knew that there was an element of poison pill in that deal that the Flyers signed Leo Carlsson to. They've now matched, but there is the other shoe to drop. How do they get this done?
I mean, the boring answer is they get it done and they ship out, I don't know, one of Frankie Vetrano, Alex Killorn. They have a few different, especially up front, they have a few different veteran forwards that I would imagine some team would be willing to take for nothing. So, I mean, that's the boring answer to your question, is that they sign him for far too much money, similar to Leo Carlsson, but they keep him in the fold. And, there's one or two cap casualties on the way out. You do wonder a little bit, we know how Pat Verbeek is, and I would include ownership along Pat Verbeek in this. We know how Ducks management likes to penny pinch on these deals, and at some point you wonder if they maybe decide to make a bit of a statement, because they've already been taken to the cleaners in the Leo Carlsson saga, and they couldn't lose him. Obviously as a Flyers fan, I was hoping it went through, but you can't lose your number one center, franchise cornerstone. But I wonder a little bit if they're maybe looking at this and feeling like, the Gauthier camp's taking us to the cleaners. They're doing us no favors. We've already gotten rinsed on one of these. Do they maybe pull off a shocker, right?
Well, and it's important to note,
retool their team.
It's important to note, I mean, cannot sign an offer sheet, even if someone wanted to give him one, has no arbitration. He doesn't really have any options other than sitting on his ass and not showing up to Anaheim.
Yep. And I think it's a possibility. Look, if you were willing to forego 2 years of a pro contract just to get out of the team that drafted you 5th overall, this is peanuts. He's probably relishing this opportunity. And I wonder who his agent is as well, by the way. I'm sure that has nothing to do with it. But I mean, Anaheim only has themselves to blame in all of this. So I don't overly feel bad, but it was the perfect storm, because the second that 18.5 mil, whatever it was, went on paper, you knew the Gauthier camp was all reasonable contract demands are out the window here. It's Maple Leafs West 2.0, Huss. Matthews, Marner, Nylander win for the bag, and they got it. And I think the Ducks are about to experience, even with the rising cap, something a little bit similar here.
I'm here for it. We'll be following it all. Brandon, have yourself a great one, and we'll catch up soon. Looking forward to more as we get closer to training camp over on the Skates and Plates.
Beauty. Sounds good. Have a good week. We'll talk soon, guys.
Right on. There's Brandon Rewucki. Mike McIntyre just about to jump on with us. I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their wonderful support of WST. And, of course, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Princess Auto Stadium, the place to be Friday night for the Bombers and Alouettes. And on the weekend, when you're looking to complete all those tasks on your list or maybe start some new projects, you got to get down to see the new flagship store of Princess Auto at 500 Panet Road. The biggest Princess Auto ever. 105,000 square feet of everything you need to complete those projects or start something new. Check out the shop where you can work and learn about all the tools they've got at Princess Auto. Make sure to say hi to Reed Carruthers while you're there. Grab a bite. Try the crossbows, fishing, camping, hunting sections. So much more in the biggest Princess Auto ever. Check them out at 500 Panet Road. Terminator and the gang at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli have had an unbelievable summer. There still is time and great deals, maybe to look ahead to next summer, whether you're talking new and used ATVs, dirt bikes, motorcycles, outboard motors, boats, RVs. But I know you sled guys are also looking just around the corner to see in the white stuff fall, and they've got great preseason deals on new 2027 snow machines and amazing deals on others as well. Polaris factory authorized clearance on a number of products, both winter and summer, in effect right now at Chud's Power Sports. 80 years in the game, the preeminent power sports superstore in Manitoba. Pop by and see him, Gimli, corner of Highway 8 and 231. And in the meantime, you can check out all their promotions and everything Chud's has going on online at chudspowersports.com. I want to shout out our friends at St. Vital Dental Center. Dr. Terry and the gang have had a great summer, but it's just about time for back to school. Now's the time to get set up with all your dental needs for you and your family. And hey, if you're looking for a great long-term home for you and your family, St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Manitobans. They've got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's Road, convenient free parking right behind the building. And they do it all for clients from 6 months to 99 plus, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. They'll handle all of your dental needs in one spot for the whole family. Make an appointment today at stvitaldental.ca. Say hi to Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff down there at 167 St. Anne's Road. And as we bring in Mike McIntyre, tough one for the Jays last night. They're back at it tonight against the Kansas City Royals in a game they just have to have. 3 back right now of the wild card spot. Follow the Jays on their chase for the wild card, and of course CFL and NFL just around the corner at your local Boston Pizza. No better place to get together with your gang for the big game than the BP Sports Lounge in your neighborhood. Ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and so much more. And if you are staying at home, you can also always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's bring in Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. Mike, what's going on?
Huss, battling a little bit of a cold, so I may not be as robust as I usually am. You know, all that time spent last week at the Manitoba Open was quite nice outside, in and out of the air-conditioned clubhouse, talking to a lot of people. The voice has taken a bit of a hit, but fortunately, I'm actually on holidays this week, enjoying a little downtime, a little R&R. Got some golf on the agenda. Got our big fantasy football draft tonight. Huss.
Oh, yeah. Where's your pick? Where are you picking?
I think the marble race was not very nice to me. I believe I was ninth. That's not great. But I'll make the most of it. So yeah, looking forward to that. And
you should
actually got a couple weeks off here before things really pick up. I'll come back after the long weekend. We've got Winnipeg Gold Eyes playoffs that week. We've got Jets rookie development camp that week. We've got the Canadian men's seniors at Niagara that week. I'll be trying to cover all 3. And then the following week, Huss, Jets training camp. 3 weeks from tomorrow is the first on-ice session. It is fast approaching, and I expect Jets chatter and maybe Jets news might pick up here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, well, there hasn't been a lot of news. There's been chatter throughout the summer. What's your read? Day 1 of training camp, no trade happens. Is 37 here in Winnipeg?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. There's, I guess, growing talk, rumors, call them what you will, about a possible holdout. You know, I went back and looked, Huss. Do you know the last time an NHL player under contract, so I'm not talking an RFA here.
Yeah.
An NHL player who was under contract. You know when the last time
I just brought it up to Brandon and we were talking about it. I said, I can't remember the last time a guy had a deal, didn't show up. There's been lots of trade requests, but I mean, guys usually go out and get paid and do what they got to do while they're meantime. Who was it?
So This is as far as I can see now. I stand to be corrected if somebody can find a more recent example. Alexei Yashin, 1999.
What?
27 years ago. It just doesn't happen. Guys don't go on strike. And that's effectively what it would be. Let's call it what it is. If a player who is under contract doesn't show up, they are on strike. And you just don't see it. Certainly not in the NHL, not very often. We see guys who are RFAs all the time, of course, and those mistakenly get called holdouts. Those aren't holdouts. They don't have a contract. They're not holding out. You don't work when you don't have a contract. So RFAs, yes, and we've seen examples here, obviously. Jacob Trouba and there's been a few of them, but that's not the case here. As we all know, Connor Hellebuyck has a contract for 5 more years. Now, does that mean he won't do it? I'm not saying that. I'll just put it this way. I'll believe it when I see it. And, I would not put heavy odds on that happening just because historically it doesn't happen. And let's just assume for a second that is the play. How does that really benefit anyone, including Connor Hellebuyck? Like, does that raise his stock in terms of what teams are going to offer the Jets? I don't see that.
No.
So, I mean, I guess other than putting some pressure on the Jets, but again, he would immediately be suspended if he didn't show up, and his money would come off the cap. Now, yes, a team would be like, what are you doing with $8.5 million in free cap space in September, where you also have to bank on potentially, the player reporting, and now you got to react. So sure, it would be messy. I just don't know how that would help. It certainly wouldn't help in the court of public opinion, that's for sure. But I also don't know how it would help get him closer to what he wants. I just don't. Would it force the Jets to make a bad deal? I don't know about that. And again, if that was a successful ploy, you'd see more players doing that. They're not. Now, yes, the landscape seems to be changing a little bit. Players maybe have more power these days than they've had in the past. If
they're free agents or have pending unrestricted free agency. It's a little different when you got 5 years left to serve.
For sure. And, it would be, put it this way, it would be fascinating to see from a storyline perspective, and I'm in the business of telling stories. My goodness, would it ever put the spotlight on Winnipeg and Hellebuyck? It would obviously become a massive distraction. So, yeah, is it possible that his camp is floating that out there to the Jets right now? Maybe. Would he actually do it if push came to shove? As I say, I have my doubts, just because there's not really a whole lot of history to fall back on. I guess maybe if he wants to make some hockey history, but obviously between now and I saw Elliott's report that. Or it wasn't so much a report, just kind of stating the obvious, which is as we get closer to training camp, the issue may kind of heat up. I think we've all expected that. So I guess let's see what the next 3 weeks brings. But, and it'll also be kind of interesting, Huss, like normally these captain skates start prior to training camp. And Connor Hellebuyck usually, I'm just thinking back to past years, he usually is one of the last arrivals anyways. Goalies do their own thing. I think he stays in Michigan. So I wouldn't read too much into it if, for example, next week or right after Labor Day, there's a bunch of jet skating and Connor Hellebuyck's not there, because that would be kind of par for the course. But obviously there's going to be a lot of chatter. And, I think Jets development camp, which is in 2 weeks from now, I think the plan is that there will be some media availability potentially with some Jets regulars that week. I wonder what one of the topics is going to be, whether it's Adam Lowry speaking or, whoever happens to be there. But yeah, I mean, I do expect we're going to start to hear more talk around Connor Hellebuyck. Are we going to see action around Connor Hellebuyck? I'm not so sure about that. And, if I had to lay odds today now, certainly with 3 weeks to the start of camp, I would say the best odds are that there isn't a trade in the next 3 weeks and he shows up at camp. But obviously there's a lot of different ways this could play out.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it'll be, someone made a great point. I'm not going to be worried. This is from, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, until I don't see any Andrea Hellebuyck photos of back to school here in Winnipeg, because that is the one thing. I mean,
yeah,
and I totally, and I do understand that, he's, as a player, if you are looking to make a move, you're really hoping that happens early, especially when you have young kids that need to get set up with what's happening with them. I mean, if he's sitting around in limbo, waiting around, I mean, your kid's got to go to school. I mean, are you doing that in Winnipeg? Are you doing it back home in Michigan, knowing that, well, you might get traded, but it's probably not going to be Detroit, and then you're going elsewhere?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it is as interesting a scenario as we've seen in a long time. But I go back to two things. Certainly the precedent that you said. It's been a long time since someone just said, no, don't pay me. I'm going to be at home. Let me know when I'm traded. It's a very bold step, and that would be certainly a big statement. But the other thing is, Cheveldayoff has been far more under the gun to make trades in the past due to pending unrestricted free agency, i.e. Dubois, where he's sort of had a gun to his head, like Evander Kane. He has made deals, and frankly made very good deals for the Winnipeg Jets in those situations. I have not come off my initial take when all of this started 4 months ago that this deal gets done when Kevin Cheveldayoff gets the price that he is asking for his Hart Trophy winning goaltender. And if that isn't met, it's a holding pattern right now. And maybe that means it's Stuart Skinner and whoever else they get in because Helly's not here. But to your point, I don't know that really changes anything in the minds of the organization and the general manager to making a deal. Like, they can't just do it, trade $1 for 3 quarters because they're not getting anything from the player right now. I think you have to almost treat it as an injury and move forward with the guys that you have. Will you be as good? Definitely not without Connor Hellebuyck, but I think you have to go down that road because, I mean, as they say, you can't get pushed around by players. And it's one thing if a guy is, hey, I'm a free agent at the end of the year, you better get something for me now. This is a very different situation. There's 5 years left on this contract, a very good contract, I might add.
Well, and you could imagine the potential domino effect around the league. Let's just say the wild scenario that we're talking about. Let's say Connor Hellebuyck does refuse to report and forces the Jets then to make a trade, that they wouldn't otherwise make. Can you imagine the empowerment to every other player around the league, including all, those under contract? And I would imagine, and so this is where, if you're the other 31 NHL GMs, who are you rooting for in that situation? Like, sure, you might be able to, maybe you think you could swoop in and get Connor Hellebuyck. Forget about 3 quarters on the dollar. Maybe you get him at 50 cents on the dollar. If, the ploy is that you're going to make the Jets, you're going to force their hand. But then for every other GM, if that's an effective strategy, how long before one of their players now pulls the same move because they see it worked for Connor Hellebuyck in Winnipeg? Like, I just can't see NHL GMs as a collective union, being very excited about a development like that and what it could mean across the league. So again, from Connor Hellebuyck's perspective, like, if he doesn't show up, how does that increase the likelihood of a trade? Especially, why would any GM now up their offer for a guy who's now, not showing up. And because if anything, you'd think, okay, well, now the Jets are more vulnerable. I'll actually reduce my offer, and they're going to have to take it because it's the best they can do. So I should add one other quick note, and Huss, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I don't believe players start getting paid till the season actually starts. So just to throw another little potential curveball in all this, if Connor Hellebuyck didn't show up for day one of training camp because he's, sending a message, I don't believe there'd be a punitive cost to him. And that could play out because what's training camp just over 2 weeks this year. It's shorter than it has been in years past with just the 4 preseason games. But there is a little bit of runway, I guess, during camp where you could try to make a statement and send a message without actually costing yourself. And I think the real test would be opening night. So we'll see. I mean, we've seen a different example of this in Dustin Byfuglien, right? Dustin Byfuglien was a player under contract who didn't report to training camp, and he was suspended. And then we know how that played out. He retired. Connor Hellebuyck's not putting in retirement papers, I can tell you that. So, that's the only situation I can think of. And in Dustin Byfuglien's case, Huss, and this is uniquely Buff, he didn't care about the money that he was walking away from. As we know, the way that played out, there were he could have gone on LTIR or something and got his last year. He didn't care.
A true one of one.
He is. So yeah, we'll see if Connor Hellebuyck tries to carve out a unique path here. One thing though, maybe regardless of where you stand on how this is going to play out, one thing I think we would all agree on, this is putting an increased spotlight on Winnipeg, on Hellebuyck. I can't imagine that's, has anybody all that excited. Because at some point this is going to have to get done. It's going to come up. Like I said, it's going to come up the first time Adam Lowry talks, first time Mark Scheifele talks, if and when Connor Hellebuyck talks. My goodness. Obviously Kevin Cheveldayoff, Scott Arniel. This is going to follow everyone around for a while, and be interesting to sort of to know what's going on behind the scenes in terms of, not that that's a crisis, but there's a degree of crisis management that may be required in this situation.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, they'll move forward with the guys that are there. As I suggested, if he's not able to go or not willing to go, and then, it becomes a waiting game. Here's something, I was talking about this with Murat, and I'm interested in your perspective on this. I mean, we've kind of known what the ask has been, a top 6 player, another younger player, and a first-round pick. Let's just call it that. If the Jets say, whether he's here or out, no trade is made for the first 25 games, we'll say. Jets have a very tough schedule. If they start terribly, regardless of how hot this seat is for the coach, do you think that potentially the ask for Hellebuyck and what comes back changes? Like potentially into far more into futures, maybe more picks, more young players, less help right now. If it looks like after 20-25 games, or will the organization be so desperate to get back to where they want to be that they almost get more aggressive for help right now? And the reason I ask this is that I think at some point over the next little while, with the age of where this core is, there are going to be some tough decisions based on the future of some of those players. I'm not sure that every one of these guys outside of Hellebuyck finishes their career. Josh Morrissey's the biggest one. I mean, if this season goes poorly, he's the one that can be re-signed next year. Does that change their path on that? And at what point do they almost get forced into more of a rebuild philosophy as opposed to the retool or whatever you want to call it?
So I'll sort of answer the question in 2 parts. I think it should cause them, if they get off to a terrible start and all of a sudden 2 years ago starts to look more like the outlier as opposed to say last year. And if this year starts like, if that's kind of maybe the reality of what this group is, I think it absolutely should force maybe a shift in organizational thinking. Will it though? I'm not so sure about that. Just knowing, excuse me, how True North thinks, knowing what they have, in Scheifele and Connor and excuse me, some of the other guys that are locked up here, I'm not sure they're ready to go down that road. And excuse me, that's going to be a tough decision for sure.
Mike McIntyre with us from the Winnipeg Free Press. Mike, just on our way out, I spent the night at the ballpark last night. By the way, and I mean, I don't know if I guess there's no more Tuesday games. Can I just tell you, folks, the deals, both the Mondays at Assiniboia Downs, but the Tuesdays at the ballpark. I got 2 junior dogs last night and a nachos and cheese for $6. Like I couldn't believe the deals that they have on there. Anyways, a great night. Yep. Finish off Monday's game with a win. End up taking the L in the late one. They're still 4.5 back of Kansas City. They do have 6 games left against the Monarchs, including the rest of the 2 this week. But it's becoming more and more clear that we're probably seeing Winnipeg and Fargo going at it in that first round of the playoffs, the great old rivalry. But the Fish still playing some good baseball and getting ready for a return to the postseason.
And I believe the Goldeyes have a series next week in Fargo, which, could potentially determine home field advantage on that Huss. Boy, my voice is just gone.
Like, you know what? I will.
It has left the building.
I will mercifully let you. And you know what? Being the good guy, the team player that I am, although we are rivals in our league.
Yeah, I think I got it back.
We'll finish this because you're going to probably want to stick around and watch the next segment. Because we've got the big brain of our guy Thomas Tipple from Fantasy Points.
Oh, yes.
And we're going to dive in because this is a kind of a unique format with the Superflex. You can have 2 quarterbacks. Yep. We're going to ask him on, the differences of drafting. A lot of people grab their magazine and, it is for a format that has 1 QB. It changes quite a bit. So we're going to kind of dive into that before we get picking tonight. As I say, my regrets, I won't be able to see all you guys tonight. I know Connor and Remo were going to be there. Yep. I've got an auction at the same time. So I'm going to be locked up in the lab trying to follow a whole bunch of stuff. But here's to a great season. Enjoy the rest of the holidays. Don't pick my guys when you're on the clock tonight.
AKA all the Kansas City Chiefs is what you're saying? Yes.
Well, there's a couple of them I'll want. And in a 2 QB league, there's always a spot on my team for number 15. Mike, you have a great one, pal. Thanks for doing this.
You bet. Take care.
Good stuff. Get a lozenge or something in there. There's Mike McIntyre. Thomas Tipple is coming up from fantasypoints.com. Looking forward to the conversation. We're starting to get into some more hockey conversations. Next week, believe it or not, folks, it's September. And that means while we wait for Jet training camp, the puck will be dropping on amateur hockey, beer leagues, and more. Everyone, as you get ready to drop the puck on another season, make sure you get down to Royal Sports, Winnipeg's hockey superstore. For over 50 years, with the best selection in skates, equipment, sticks, goalie gear that you will find anywhere in the province. Another great thing about suiting up at Royal is that the entire hockey department is staffed by hockey players, so they'll help you get the right deal, the right fit, the right piece for players of all ages and all skill levels. In addition, NFL season is here. We're just about to talk about it. New NFL merch coming in by the day. You got lots of Jays gear right now, and of course, stocking up for the upcoming hockey season for the Winnipeg Jets. Get ready to drop the puck at Royal Sports, Winnipeg's hockey superstore for over 50 years, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram as well, at Royal Sports Winnipeg, for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. As I mentioned in that conversation with Mike, Great night at the ballpark last night, and we have an absolutely beautiful week of weather right through Sunday. Fish playing each and every day. Couple more big games tonight and tomorrow against the Kansas City Monarchs. Fish, after the loss last night, after getting the Monday game, which was resumed, still 4.5 back and 1 game up on the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks. Get your tickets for tonight and the rest of the season-ending homestand before the playoffs. goldeyes.com/tickets today. Listen, there's still lots of time to get out there and have a little fun this summer. Maybe it's this weekend, maybe it's the long weekend. If you are planning your next adventure, make sure to start with Travel Manitoba. Whether you're searching for road trip inspiration, hidden gems, or the latest festivals and events, everything you need is waiting for you at travelmanitoba.com. Looking for ideas on the go? Follow along on social media at Travel Manitoba for real-time inspiration, local tips, and can't-miss experiences from across the province. And if you prefer a personal touch, stop by the Visitor Information Center at the Forks in Winnipeg. We will have a live racing at Assiniboia Downs tonight. We will get to our picks a little later on, but it starts at 7:30. Free parking, free admission, big slate of races on a beautiful night tonight. We'll touch that at the end, but right now, let's bring in our guy, Thomas Tipple, fantasypoints.com, because draft season is here right now. Everyone's busy. We got a big one tonight. So let's check in with the experts at fantasypoints.com. Thomas, what's going on, man? How are you?
Happy to be here as always. Big Superflex draft. And I don't know if you know this or not, but that's kind of my bag. Superflex is my specialty. That's all I play. So let's talk.
I love
business.
it. I love it. So yeah, it's the Winnipeg Media League tonight. We did a marble race for the draft order on Friday. I'm a little later on. Remo's got the second pick. But just to lay this out, if you've been playing kind of standard fantasy football with one quarterback, the Superflex adds a flex spot that you can use a second quarterback. It does really, this is the one tweak to a format, Thomas, that can really change player values, especially at the quarterback position. Just thoughts on the philosophy going into a draft or a season where in your league you can play 2 QBs as to the standard one.
Yeah, so I like to live life on the edge in a Superflex format. I have mastered the gross quarterback 2, as I call it. I'm very much of the cost is king, and quarterback scoring across the league is down unless you have, and maybe we got Yu-Gi-Oh fans out here, an Exodia type player, one player to rule them all, if you would, for our Lord of the Rings fans. And these guys are the ones that produce significantly above their cost and are what I like to refer to as legitimate league winners. The problem is you look at somebody like your guy, Patrick Mahomes, and I've got bad news for you, Huss. I'm not touching him in Superflex drafts, especially at his cost. Last year, Patrick Mahomes finally started to produce like a fantasy quarterback that you could really count on. That was because of his rushing production, rushing well above his career average. I don't think he's doing that coming off the injury this year. Rushing quarterbacks are king. If you can get bargain discounts on your second quarterback that can produce similar enough to the average to some of the guys at the top, you get to stack your roster with more running backs and wide receivers compared to the rest of your league who are reaching for a guy. And maybe you get a guy like Jaden Daniels who can put up 38 points in 1 week, and he has a nice floor because of the rushing, but to the average on a week-to-week basis, a guy like Jared Goff, who you get 4 rounds later, is on a week-to-week basis going to provide you with enough production to the average that your running backs and wide receivers being better than the rest of your league mates because you got those upper tier guys instead of the quarterback means more than somebody else's 20th quarterback or 10th quarterback, etc. It's really, really interesting how the price philosophy hits in a Superflex draft. In a Superflex draft, you'll find 17 quarterbacks go often in the first 4 rounds. I won't take one of them. I am stacking all of those elite wide receivers that fall down the board, all those elite running backs that fall down the board, because the gap between wide receiver 5 to wide receiver 15 is way greater than the gap between quarterback 5 and quarterback 15. And that is what a lot of people misunderstand. And it's a super flex position. It's not a 2 quarterback league. I have to tell you, Huss, I have won so many championships with guys like Phillip Rivers last year. Phillip Rivers was in my super flex spot on teams last year. I played wide receivers over bum quarterbacks. I've won leagues with Tyler Huntley when he was in Miami 2 years ago. I mean, the quarterback 2 position is the most overvalued position in fantasy sports. And I implore everyone drafting in Superflex drafts to not overpay. Unless you're getting those guys like a Josh Allen who are known league winners, at that price, just pay less and take the average.
You know, it's funny you bring up Josh because obviously, I've been spending a lot of time on the site lately as we're getting ready for all these drafts. One of the great things about Fantasy Points is you can go into some of the projections and rankings and you can dive in because the rankings are very different in a Superflex league than they are in a PPR or, a standard league. Now, there is it's Barfield's top 150.
Yes.
For Superflex 2 QB. Starts off with Josh Allen, and then there's Gibbs and Robertson. I was really surprised at this, and this maybe goes to more of your philosophy, and I'm not sure whether this is more standard or how you guys do it there, but like after Josh Allen, and I think a lot of people might take Gibbs number 1, maybe Allen's there. Remis has 2, so he's going to probably have the choice of one of those 2 guys. Obviously, Bijan's there, but I'm just looking like in the top 30, they've got Allen as a quarterback at 1, Lamar, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, 7, 8, 9. Hurts is at 12, and then you have to go all the way down to 26 before there's another run on QBs, and it's a big group. Burrow, Dart, Caleb Williams, Dak, Herbert, Lawrence, and Purdy from 26 to 32. Is that sort of along the lines of what you were thinking, that you can't reach for the QB too early because in those early picks you do have the opportunity for big time difference makers at the skill positions, and the ability to replace those quarterback numbers, albeit with a drop off from one of the top 5s, a heck of a lot better when you can dive in on those second time around, or basically, as you were mentioning, round 4, round 5.
There's 53 starting quarterbacks last year, Huss. 53. You got 53 options to play at the quarterback position. Good luck finding 53 playable running backs in any given year. It is almost impossible to do. When I look at my rankings in a Superflex redraft league, Josh Allen isn't there until number 40. Like that is the difference. And yes, you are going to seriously lose out on the big spike Josh Allen rushing touchdown weeks. I totally understand that. But again, you get a player like Jared Goff and Dak Prescott are 2 of my must drafts in a 2 quarterback format, because on any given week, the Lions offense is going to boom. The Dallas offense is going to boom. We saw that last year when I was all in on the Dallas offense, and it was paying off until the Lamb injury, and then Dak got a little bit beat up, but that can happen. If you're not getting these elite rushers, you're right. Like I want Chase Brown. I want Ken Walker. A little less on Ashton Genty with the ankle thing. What a roller coaster that's been. And I see what Teal said. 53 quarterbacks, only 10 or 15 of them were good. You have to understand where I'm coming from in that I don't care about real football. All right. When I'm speaking in terms of there are 53 quarterbacks, again, I used Phillip Rivers off the couch, and he provided 13 plus fantasy points for me in a week that I needed it. Okay, so what we have to separate, or at least I separate, good NFL quarterback play to fantasy points quarterback play. Those 2 things are not the same. So you don't have to be a certifiably, quote, good quarterback. Nick Mullins went out there as a we wouldn't call Nick Mullins a stud type quarterback. And he was putting up 30-point weeks at one point. Carson Wentz came in off the bench and immediately increased the fantasy points per play, or the EPA per play, if you want to go that way, for everyone on the Vikings. Justin Jefferson, on pace with any quarterback not named J.J. McCarthy, was like a 16-point per game fantasy player. And we wouldn't call Carson Wentz a quote good quarterback. So good for the NFL versus good for fantasy are two completely different things.
Hey, just while you mentioned the Vikings for a minute,
yes,
interested in your perspective and expectations for Kyler Murray. I did see today things are not going well for 9. He's splitting backup reps right now with the aforementioned Carson Wentz. That can't be a good sign. It's going to be Kyler Murray. Where do you peg Kyler in the quarterback landscape? I mean, and is he a guy that you might be able to get later on that could be very, very productive in a format where you have the option for 2 QBs?
See, Kyler Murray is the perfect example for me in terms of what I call the gross quarterback strategy. Nobody wants to draft Kyler Murray anymore, right? We're kind of over it. Now, I think there are some things that the football community does with Kyler that I think are unfair to him. I think that the Call of Duty memes are cheap. I think they're clickbaity. I think it's unfair to him, but I will also say he hasn't helped himself. For Kyler Murray to be this upper tier player, he's needed 2 things. DeAndre Hopkins, well, now he's got Justin Jefferson, and he needs to run the football, something he's been open about with coaches about not wanting to do. That's been part of the problem, and we've kind of seen it. But in 2024, Kyler Murray was quarterback 10 in 6-point passing touchdown leagues. He had 78 rushing attempts, 572 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Now, early in his career, when he was this dynamite fantasy asset, 93 carries, 133 carries, 544 yards, 819, but 11 rushing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns. Kyler Murray, in any season that he's finished, has never not finished as a top 10 fantasy points per game quarterback. Here's the problem. Kyler Murray is now going into an offense that focuses on something he's not very good at, just throwing over the middle in rhythm. The KOC Minnesota Vikings offense is a very tempo-controlled, in-structure offense, and Kyler Murray has not been very good at that. Kyler Murray is, however, very good at hyper-targeting his number 1 target. Trey McBride was an upper-tier target with Kyler Murray. DeAndre Hopkins, upper-tier target for Kyler Murray. And before he got hurt, Marquise Hollywood Brown was an upper-tier fantasy-producing target for Kyler Murray before his legs just quit on him again. So I'm high on Kyler Murray. I'm fine with him even as my QB1 later in Superflex drafts. You're talking redraft, a possible 6th to 7th round pick in a 12-team league. I'll take that shot all day, and I'll piggyback a guy like Kyler Murray with another rushing quarterback with upside and a Malik Willis. Now, the Dolphins' offense might absolutely be one of the worst you've ever seen this year, but all Malik Willis has to do is really rush for 55 yards a game and throw for 180, score 22 touchdowns, and you're looking at a 13 to 14 point per game quarterback too you get for nearly free. I'll take my chances.
Yeah, I love it. And, Willis, I mean, we talked about real football and fantasy football. Dude, all that garbage time that Miami's going to be in this year is music to fantasy owners' ears. So we'll go ahead. Now, folks, fantasypoints.com is the website. You guys, as I said, I told you last week, but I've spent a lot more time over the course of the past week on the site. I mean, it is just phenomenal. First of all, right now I'm getting ready for drafts. I was just mentioning sort of the guidance of things like Superflex. But then come the actual regular season is where the data suite and all the work you and the guys have been doing behind the scenes, I think, is really going to bear fruit for Fantasy Points guys. And of course, we've got a promo code for WST listeners. Fill people in on what you guys have cooking at the site and how people can jump on it to dominate their buddies in their leagues this year.
That's right. You can get Discord access with even a free account at fantasypoints.com. Gets you into all of our basic Discord channels where there's a ton of information popping off there. And of course, if you're into DFS and you're into betting, we had the number one DFS projections in the industry. So your money is made back very quickly. We were up 99 plus units in our prop bets last year as a company. So you can definitely cash in on that as well. But if the fantasy football is all you're looking for, the $60 US package gets you access to the Fantasy Points front office, all of the rankings, all of the draft guides, live draft assist, waiver information. I mean, it's really can't miss. And like you said, the data suite is the most powerful database in football. It gives you everything from alignment, positional value, literally anything you can think of. You want to know how receivers operate in man coverage because you know you're in depth and you want to know if wide receiver X is going to have a great game. Don't worry. We've got cornerback wide receiver matchups. We've got literally any stat that you can think of. We chart every game with our own charting team. It is the most accurate data, proven. It's not hyperbole in the industry. And I have to tell you, Huss got something special on the way. I can't say too much about it, but Data Suite 2.0, it's close. And I know one of the big things that we hear a lot about is it's not as mobile friendly. Data Suite 2.0, like the Fantasy Points Data Suite, sent waves through the industry to the point where PFF hasn't quite been the same. And you can tell by how they're closing their consumer level product. Data Suite 2.0 is going to rock the industry. It's not just me being a company man. I truly believe in this. So do we. And other companies are trying to up their Data Suite game, and there's the reason. 2.0 is on the way.
FantasyPoints.com. You can use that promo code WST as well. And give him a follow on X at L Nostra Thomas. Hit him up with your questions. Great stuff, and appreciate you being there for WST listeners. Have a good one. I'll look forward to chatting with you next week as we get closer to kickoff in a couple weeks.
That's right. Let me know how your draft goes. I'll be around if you have a question or two, Huss. I got you.
Right on. Thanks so much. There's Thomas Tipple. Remo, you're on the clock at 2 tonight in this league. Where are you? Where's your head at as far as your selection? I mean, if Josh Allen's there, are you going to take him, or are you hoping for one of those top 2 running backs so you can have a big jump and then grab your quarterback when it comes back?
Yeah, Thomas coming on just like giving out my whole strategy on the show, but I was gonna hope for one of the 2 running backs. I won the league last year, and I had Daniel Jones as my quarterback for a majority of the season. I took him near the end.
I'm telling you, I got it.
I had quarterbacks very late last year, and I lucked into some. I think I had McCaffrey, and I took him early. So, who did I have last year? I picked CeeDee Lamb and McCaffrey. It worked out pretty well, though. I think Lamb got injured, but I took quarterback very late, and I'll probably do that again. Hopefully, no one's listening, but whatever. I got the target on my back. I'll deal with it.
Hey, you're number 2. I mean, that's why I ask you. I mean, none of us are going to be able to do anything about it when you're on the clock after. Who got the first pick again? Was it Josh?
I don't even know. I'm trying to find the order on Yahoo, and I don't even know where to find it. You sent out the text message.
Media League. Here it is.
The group.
This is it tonight. Yeah, Josh is on the clock. I bet he takes Gibbs. Then it's Reem, Ed, Tate, Taylor, Billix at 5, Slats at 6, Bombing 7, John Hodge 8, Mike 9, Hammer 10, Huss 11, Connor with the 2 picks at 12 and 13. Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. Thomas, we'll catch up next week and let you know how it all runs out. Patty's going to join us in just a minute on the program. Of course, I'm heading out in a couple weeks with the HSC Foundation with our winners of the auction at their gala at Aikens Lake. Going to do some September fishing. I've never done it before. Really, really looking forward to it. So I'll have some great reports. But, of course, it's been an amazing year at Aikens Lake, and they are booking well into 2027 right now. It is a great time for prime dates to get in touch with Pitt, Julie at aikenslake.com for more information on availability for 2027 right now. as we look ahead to next summer and pulling the big ones out of incredible Aikens Lake. And as great as the world-class fishing, it's the world-class hospitality that truly makes the Aikens experience what it is. Follow them on all their socials as well over at aikenslake.com. And we're going to be talking a little golf with Pat. Some big changes on the PGA Tour Championship coming up. And, of course, what a weekend it was in Manitoba golf with Braxton Kuntz of Breezy Bend making the cut at the Manitoba Open on PGA Tour Americas. And great job by the folks at Elmhurst for putting on a great tournament. Of course, that was at Breezy last year, although they got hit with that insane storm, which cost them a couple rounds at the beginning. If you are thinking about making Breezy Bend one of Winnipeg's top private courses, your long-term home for you and your family, get in touch with our pal Corey Johnson right now, breezybend.ca or 895-7205 about locking in membership for 2027 at beautiful Breezy Bend. All right, we're going to check in with Pat in just a moment. We still do have Assiniboia Downs picks to go, but let's give a big shout out first and a cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's bring in P. Greggy himself, the Mod Father, Pat Gregoire, back on the program. Patty, what is up, pal? How's it going?
I'm pretty busy snapping necks and taking checks here in the comments. Had my first time out. It was exhilarating, so everyone better be on their best behavior. The Mod Father's here. So,
man, it was wild weekend at the BMW. And listen, I just wanted to spend a minute, and I know he made the headlines for the wrong reasons, with a top of a tee shot that would not look out of place with me and my buddies at Pinawa on the weekend. But what an incredible story Gary Woodland has been. The comeback from the brain tumor, the interview at the start of the year, break it down on the course with the PTSD, with everything that he's been through. I mean, honestly, one of the most inspiring sports stories this year has been the return to prominence of Gary Woodland. And I got to tell you, going into the Tour Championship this week at a course that actually really does suit his game, there is something about the Cinderella story of Woodland that makes me want to tip him at 50-1 to win the whole thing.
Listen, I feel like this is with everything that we talked about all season long and how Scotty Scheffler was the best player on tour without really, being Scotty and dominating, like all the, T2 finishes and runner-ups and top fives and everything of that nature. To me, this feels like this is for Scotty's of the taking. Like, I think he probably could have won last week if he wasn't dealing with hand, foot, and mouth disease. Like, the guy just seems like he's absolutely on fire right now, which leads me to say, like, why not take some chances? Why not look for the fun story? Why not look for something that will build intrigue? And I think Woodland is one of that. He's a great, like you said, great guy, great story. You just think of everything that he's had to been through and has gone through to get to this point. So, yeah, I'm probably going to take a couple of flyers deep on this board, but this is the first time I'm doing it this year. I'm going to lay the the plus 333 with Scotty. I just think Scotty's going to win this thing. With that being said, there's the without Scotty market that I'm going to take some stabs at as well. And when you look at plus 3,900, so 39-1 for Woodland to be the winner without Scotty, that one is certainly staring at me in the face as well.
Yeah, as they say, I mean, it's impossible to avoid Scheffler, and he kind of does feel inevitable in this one. Although Rory looked pretty good last week, and Rory,
yes, he did.
Rory doesn't mind cashing a big check That's one thing that we know that he's been, and he's obviously won this before and would love to do it again. Sam Burns, another player that you've been on before. We have a little bit of an issue with Burns' closing at times. Certainly that reared its head a couple of weeks ago. But I will mention to people, if you do like Sam Burns, 16-1, make sure to check out the PME Weekly Boost from our pal Pat Mayo. That is 20-1 to win the Tour Championship. The weird thing about this one, Pat, is that we're down to the final 30. Like, there's no more top 20s. I mean, two-thirds of the field by definition is going to be top 20. So it certainly is a little more difficult to put something together. Although, if we do go down the board and kind of look at a few of the players that we think are lower rated, but to be top 10, top 5, the Sunday Sweat Club can still ride one more time for the 2026 season.
Yeah, absolutely. And why not go big or go home? It is the last one. It's a smaller field, and there's a reason these are the top 20 golfers. They're the golfers that played the best this year. Sure, there's a couple of outliers here and there, but I mean, realistically, would you be surprised on come Sunday, you scroll down the board at, somewhere in the 40-1, or 50? Would you be surprised if a Tom Kim won this thing? Absolutely not. Would you be surprised if my guy, Ryan Fox, won at 100-1? No. I mean, it's all likely that we'll probably have someone in that upper echelon win. But I mean, if we're going to build this parlay for a top 10, why don't we take a couple stabs or 3 stabs here? Because I'll be honest, I went a little chalkier for my Greggy's Golf special this week, but still got a very good number because, it's 3 of the top 10. Sam Burns, Wyndham Clark, and Scotty Scheffler, who you could argue 3 of the best players on tour this year, all to finish within the top 10 at plus 300, boosted up to 344. So Haas, I'll let you start for once here. Who, I know you already mentioned Woodland. I don't know if you want to throw him on there at, what would it be, plus 175. I'd be fine with it. But who else down the board with maybe a little more value than normal would you like to put on this card?
I love Gary Woodland at plus 175. I mean, I think that he is a player that everyone is going to be pulling for. He even was having issues with the drones and stuff last week and then powered through it. I think it's been inspiring for a lot of people to watch it, but I think he also realizes the effect he's having on others. And I think he's going to be there. I think he's got a lot of confidence right now, and it would be an incredible. I actually used my 30% win boost on a Gary Woodland outright, which is nice. But yeah, let's throw him in. And I mean, the number is nice at plus 175. Now, part of me does want to think about, do we like Rory top 5 at plus 125? Scotty at minus 189 is there, but if we do have that on a couple of others, I think Rory's going to be sniffing around this. He has been here before. He's done it. So, we don't necessarily need to take him to win at 8-1. But if we put him in at plus 125, and then, honestly, we were just talking about Sam Burns. I don't know whether I'm really on him to win, although I might take advantage of that great number on the PME boost. But he's just around even money to be in the top 10. If we put McIlroy top 5, Burns and Woodland in at top 10, I think we'd actually end up being at a pretty nice number.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Obviously, I'm on Burns to finish in the top 10 in my other. I won't be betting on him to win this thing. I might take him in the without Scotty market, which you can get, I think it was 12-1 last time I saw it when it got posted. So I'd be quite fine with that. So we're going to go with Rory top 5 and then Burns.
Is there, listen, if Burns is on both, it could pivot. Is there somebody else, if we wanted to lock in Rory top 5, Gary top 10? Cam Young had a great year. Here's the other guy, and he has won here before, Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Fleetwood. That was going to be one of the names that I was going to throw out there because he seems like a guy that, maybe doesn't have the best Friday round, but come Sunday, he's going to be sniffing around and is going to find a way in that top 10. So I'm quite fine with him. The other one who was not too much further down, and I've been on him a lot over the last couple of weeks, he is Mr. Playoff himself in Victor Hovland. I mean, the guy is a big-time player. He's won this event before. But with that being said, it's crazy to say, but I feel like Fleetwood has a little bit of a higher floor, whereas I think Hovland, I would feel confident in him winning this thing more than I would with Fleetwood, but I could also see him finishing, T25 or finishing outside there, whereas Fleetwood's probably going to be sniffing anywhere between T5 to about T12.
I'm just looking. The other guy, just looking back from last week, I mean, Wyndham Clark obviously won the event. Then you had Cantlay and McIlroy. Gary Woodland was right there. I mean, another guy that had a really good week last week that is even money for top 10 is Gotterup. And Gotterup is one of those guys. I mean, he's such a great all-around player. But again, someone's going to get bumped for Scotty Scheffler. We'll see on that. So I'll leave it to you. Burns, Gotterup, or Tommy Fleetwood. Who do you want to roll with the top 10 to round out Gary and Rory top 5?
Oh, you had me sold on Fleetwood until you mentioned Gotterup. The guy's game has been so well-rounded. This tournament is supposed to be for the best golfers all season long. With the exception of Scotty and Wyndham, and I think you could even throw Burns, even though he doesn't have a win. But, talking about player of the year, I think the conversation probably starts and finishes with those two guys. But Gotterup's not too far behind when you talk about one of the best players this year. So
2 wins. And I mean, his last 2 months, T4 at the BMW, T30 at the FedEx St. Jude, did miss the cut at the Rocket, T18 at the Open, 11 at the Scottish Open, and won the John Deere before that. Although, you know what? Maybe we don't go off Tommy. Tommy has done it before here.
Sure.
He's going to be. So let's do that. Top 10 Tommy, top 10 Gary Woodland, top 5 Rory. Okay. We'll put that up in the Sunday Sweat Club. I was waiting to have you on. I was going to get into this yesterday. I mentioned it briefly. But I am so excited to be talking golf with you a year from now because match play is back, and it's back in the Tour Championship. There's going to be a tournament that determines the Tour champion and the end of season overall results, which I think makes the most sense. I mean, if we're talking about a season-long champion, let's make the entire thing work. But then the top 32 are going to move on for 2 tournaments. World Cup style group stage, 8 groups of 4. The top 16 move on, and then mano a mano, head to head, matchups on CoolBet every day for the top 16. And that is something we have not had since 2023. It has been missing. Like, I don't know about you, but I think that they nailed it. My buddy Feinberg said it actually took a football guy to figure out golf playoffs. But
I know.
I think that they have absolutely done that.
Listen, I think everyone hated the way that the playoff was set up a couple of years ago with like the strokes and whatnot.
Strokes? Yeah.
The starting strokes. It was so dumb. And then they fixed it. And I should have said fixed it with quotation marks, because then it still felt like when the playoffs started, your points didn't restart. And if you had a bad, first round, it didn't really matter, because like a guy like Rory, who was near the top, or Scotty or Wyndham, if they had a brutal round, they would still kind of move on. So like there wasn't that pressure for you to have to pick up your game in the playoffs. Sure, if you're on the bubble, it did, but like it didn't make sense. And I think everyone last year was just so thrilled you didn't have the starting strokes anymore for the Tour Championship. But then you talk to some of the players, and Matt Fitzpatrick had a great quote. He was saying, like, I know everyone in North America loves playoffs, but like, him being an Englishman, he's like, it's kind of all that hard work that you have throughout the regular season, and it kind of gets thrown out. So like, it just felt like there wasn't a perfect formula for the playoff. Like, the starting stroke stunk. What this is doesn't really make sense for playoffs. They've nailed this. And you're totally right. From like a betting perspective, from a fantasy perspective, this is awesome. Like, you and I have so much fun when it comes to making our picks for the President's Cup, and which we're going to be doing in about a month's time. And, making our picks for the Ryder Cup. Like, one of my favorite events used to be the match play championship. Like, that was great. And I think golf has been looking for it. Liv tried it with the team events, trying to get that team aspect. And you can't replicate what the Ryder Cup brings, but what you can do with match golf, if you put some serious incentive, not that it's just some tournament in the middle of June where the purse is a little bit bigger. Like, this purse is going to be gigantic. I think guys are going to be excited to get something a little bit different. And I like Feinberg said, kudos to a football guy for figuring out the playoff system, because it's been long overdue and it's great. I don't know if you saw, 2027 schedule was announced. Not too many crazy changes. The big change will come when it's the Challenger Series in 28. So we still get the Canadian Open next year as not an elevated event, but still on a good part of the calendar. So great news for 2027. I'm still a bit nervous to what happens in 28 with this new schedule, but for an association that kind of was fighting some bad headlines for a very long time, gotta say, like, this new leadership, I'm starting to feel a lot more confident in over the last couple of months.
Yeah, no, all the bad headlines are taken over by good golf after their social media fiasco.
Good Lord.
Those guys are getting a rake. I mean, I think it's
as they should
the top right now with what's happening, but that is the world we live in. Hey, before we go, this is must-win territory for the Jays tonight. They needed that one last night. They got to win these series. The Royals all of a sudden have won 9 in a row, but it's going to be a bullpen game tonight. Jays at -156. How are we feeling about the Bluebirds going into? We know the hot dogs will be consumed, but will. To quote our old friend Jameis Winston, will they be eating a W tonight?
Listen, I think they have no choice. Like you said, must win -156 against a red hot Royals team. Like, if I'm not a Blue Jays fan, I'd be considering sprinkling the Royals. But at the same time, like, this game is just so important for the Blue Jays. And I know it's another bullpen night, and the way that everything was handled last night, you feel for Scherzer, because I think he gave enough that he needed to. And even the pen, just kind of unfolded. The team was starting to hit. I mean, it's just they could not cash in with runners in scoring position. And Huss, is that not the theme of this baseball club a couple of months ago? Like, we hadn't seen it, but they made a push. They made a push to the very end last night for everything that went wrong. Like, hard hit line drives to the infield, beautiful plays, unlucky, bounces here and there, bad defensive miscues, bad base running, whatever it is, it always felt like this team was still alive. And it's been a long time since we've felt like this with this Blue Jays team, with the exception of the last couple of weeks. So I think they're live in this game. I think they have to. This is a team that obviously plays better with their backs against the walls, despite a terrible throw last night for a awful error. I mean, Vladdy's been swinging the bat a lot better. He still has no power, which is still beyond me. But Huss, like, as we're talking here, the Jays have moved even more at -161.
I just saw that.
The books know how important this is, and I think people building their money line parlays or maybe some sharper money that's okay with plugging their nose at a -150 money line. They know how important this is, bullpen game or not. And over that stretch where they were winning games, beating the Yankees, beating the Red Sox, they would win bullpen games. So the bats have to do their part, though, Huss. That's a non-negotiable at this point.
Hey, Patty, before we go, how about a little same gamer tonight for this Royals Jays game? This is what I'm cooking up. Jays to win. We got to have it. Brett Bateman, 3 hits last night. Really swinging the bat well.
Fire, man.
Bateman over 1.5 total bases. and Bobby Witt Jr., who is inevitable, over 1.5 total bases. So Bateman and Witt, both over 1.5 total bases. You want to bet those alone. Witt's plus 101, Bateman's plus 134. And we'll tag those with the Jays to win. So a pretty simple one. We need a double or a couple hits by both Bobby Witt and Bateman, and we need the Jays to get the job done. And probably throw that up in the combo cards, I imagine, later on this afternoon.
Yeah, we'll get those up. Jake is currently on his way to Montana, so he hasn't put that one in the system just yet. But yeah, we'll have that one ready to go. 7:07 local pitch, 6:07 for you guys. Yeah, massive game tonight. I love that. I was on a Witt over 1.5 bases bet last night as well. So just for him to get a hit, minus 303, Vladdy minus 303. So I mean, based on the numbers here, Huss, we could see a lot of offense here, and the total is at 8.5. I mean, it hit 8 last night in a game that looked like the over was dead within like that first 5 innings and kind of came to life. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about the over as well. But I love yours. We'll get that ride with us up at the combo cards or the exclusives.
Sounds good, Patty. As always, a pleasure, and looking forward to spending some quality time with you next week and doing some fun stuff content-wise as well. Have a good one tonight. Good luck with your fantasy drafts before we go, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, excited, ready for Talon. Bags are not packed yet, but mentally they're packed. Poker golf on the weekend will be a lot of fun. But like I was saying to you yesterday, man, it's tough to plan some of this schedule because I'm expecting you to be playing on the final table when all things are said and done.
I'm booking off most of the days. No,
I am going to be your Paul Heyman all week long. Yes. I'm going to be your manager, walking you around. You're the travel chief, the OTC, and I will be your Paul Heyman right at your side the entire way.
Looking forward to it. Pat, have a great one. There he is.
See you, fellas.
The mod father himself at P. Greggy and, of course, at CoolBet Canada. We'll get that same gamer up a little later on in the afternoon. I'll probably be up in the next few minutes, actually. The boys work quickly for the WST crew. All right, let's get Remo back in here. Reem, this is, I mean, you have a couple off nights for the Blue Jays, and boom, you find yourself 3 back with another 4 teams in between you and the Guardians. So, to me, this turnaround needs to happen tonight, and they need to keep it rolling throughout this week.
Yeah, I'm looking at the top of their lineup. I know they got some good performances yesterday, but you're almost like, who are these guys? And desperately need something, anything from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's now back, if they want to go anywhere. Losing 5-3 to KC. Not ideal, but, you look at the standings, there's just so many teams in there. I'm following Seattle. They're trying to make a push. They're waiting for Cal Raleigh to wake up, and he's had a pretty good last couple of games, but the Rangers...
you could say he hit homers in 4 straight at-bats.
Yeah, it's more than Guerrero has done, at least at home, in quite some time. But you got the Rangers and the Orioles and the Mariners and the Twins all behind... all in front of the Jays. It's tough. I know Guardians in action right now. So, hey, we're almost in the final month of the season. This is the home stretch. Every game like a playoff game. So I'll wait and see what the lineup is here for the Jays tonight. What are they playing against? KC there at Rogers Center.
You know what? Speaking of the stretch, we're not quite at the home stretch of the live racing season, but it is the final day of live racing this week after 2 great days on Monday and Tuesday. Tonight, 7:30, Assiniboia Downs. They're back at the track. And Reem, our head-to-head battle continues. How did you do last night at ASD in our picks?
Not good. I was over. I went and checked it, and wasn't great. You can't win them all, I guess, but we're playing neck and neck, so that probably didn't help me last night.
No, I actually had a pretty nice night. I hit my winner in race number 2 on good old Labrat. Labrat came through. Labrat came through. Won $12 on Labrat. And then my exacta in race number 3, the 1-3 Queen of Attitude, and Arikara came through. That one paid $23. So I had a nice night last night. Probably regaining the lead after we were basically in a dead heat, which brings us to tonight. Got most of my picks in. Why don't you take us through yours, and then I will finish up with mine.
Okay, I've got my picks in, kind of playing it a little safe here, I guess. I don't know if that's the play, but I do have one trifecta. It is the chalk box, race 3, 2, 3, 4. That's the program selections. Play Freebird, had to do it, Sum It Up, and Flying Miss. It's the trifecta box there. Race 4. Sorry, I'm 3, 5, 6, 7. Race 5. I am on horse 4 to win. Big Tippa. Hope it can overcome the favorite, Low Eurocat. I think we've done Big Tippa before. Race 6. I've got another winner bet. I'm going a bit big here. It is the program selection A and AI Smart Pick. Horse 6, Classico. I'm going with that one. And race 7, I'm going with a horse to place. Second in the program selection, AI Smart Pick, Kiki Love. Those are my picks here for tonight.
Kiki Love. That sounds like an adult entertainer. Let's go with mine. I'm going to finish. I'm going to come back to the other picks that I've got earlier on. I think we're going to roll with a triactor box for the final night of racing. I guess it's 2, 3, 5 are the spots there. You know what? Let's go with we'll go 2, 3, 7 for race number 7. That'll be the triactor box. So it's Nene, Kiki Love, and we're gonna go Layla's Song on that one. So that is a $6 bet. Going in reverse, I do have, I won with the $2 exacta box yesterday. We're going to do that for race number 5. Number 1, Kate's Princess. We've definitely seen Kate's Princess do well at the track over the last few years. Miss Z was also a consideration, but we're going to go Kate's Princess and Big Tippa. And then I got a couple win bets right off the bat. We're going race number 1, $3 on number 3. Not So Swift to win. In race number 2, sorry. I've got another exacta box. We're going 4-5. Wits, Dubai Gal, and the favorite Little Tribune. So a 4-5er for race number 2. And starting it off, race number, or I already said we had number 3. Race number 3, we've got number 1 to win. That is the very excellently named Unknown Caller with Antonio Whitehall on the spot. Of course, you can watch all the races online on YouTube with Kirk and Stretch, AS Downs. But there's no better place to be, especially on a beautiful night like tonight. Either at the ballpark watching the Gold Eyes or out at the track watching the ponies. Great night to get outside, Remo. And you can always follow the Blue Jays game along on your phone.
Yes, busy sports weekend, or sports week, as you mentioned. The Gold Eyes in town all week. We got the Bomber game Friday, Gold Eyes on the weekend, Assiniboia Downs in action. It's also the Speedway. I see your guy Rick Delane having some success there on Thursdays in the WST car. I did share it on our Instagram story. So no shortage of stuff to keep you occupied, although it was nice to discuss some lines, even if they were for the alumni game in October. Nice of the Jets to put that out there as the alumni game tickets on sale tomorrow.
Yeah, no doubt. Tomorrow will be a fun show. The guy who's on the clock in our media draft, Josh Frey Sam, He's going to join us. We'll talk some NFL fantasy. We'll hit the draft, and we'll get his thoughts on the Bombers heading into Friday night against the Alouettes. Kenny Wiebe will also jump on with us. We'll set up the final home weekend of the regular season with the Winnipeg Goldeyes and Andrew Collier and much, much more. Big thanks to Brandon Rewucki, Mike McIntyre, Thomas Tipple, and of course, Pat Gregoire. And a huge thanks to all of our sponsors, everyone listening on the podcast, and all of you hanging out in the chat today, live on YouTube. That's going to do it for us today. Have yourself a great night and join us tomorrow, 1 o'clock, right here, live on YouTube for another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Have a great one, everyone.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.